Coming up on Tech News today, drones are stalking you. Google's Project Tango gets a consumer release date, finally. Segway's new Ballecer hoverboard, some of the best video games of 2015, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. Tech News Today is up next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1424, recorded Friday, January 8th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And by FreshBooks, the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of freelancers and small businesses the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Try it free at FreshBooks.com/TNT. And by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Wow! Hello, and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk to the tech enthusiasts and the change makers, the taste makers, all about today's tech news. Thanks for joining us. I am Megan Morrone.
And I am Jason Howell. It's true. Still Jason Howell. How are you doing today, Megan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm ready for this kind of like news light-ish day. I think Fridays are just kind of like this, right?
It is a slow news day, which, you know, a news editor would always say we didn't work hard enough, but we worked very hard. We found some good, fun things to talk about.
That's right. We're going to always try and do that. I would like to welcome to the show Ryan Hoover. He is the founder of Product Hunt. How's it going, Ryan?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing awesome. It's great to get you on the show today. Tell us a bit about Product Hunt for people who aren't familiar.
Yeah, so Product Hunt is perfect for this audience. It's a place to find new tech gadgets, apps, books, websites, podcasts, etc. And a lot of things that you talk about on a regular basis are found on Product Hunt.
Well, cool. We're glad to have you here to talk about the tech news. We got some product news, some gaming news. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
This morning, the Wall Street Journal reported that high-level government officials, including the White House Chief of Staff, the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of the FBI, and the President's Counterterrorism Advisor have flown to Silicon Valley to meet with executives from Google, Facebook, Apple, and Yahoo, and some others. Sources say the discussions were an effort to urge executives to do more to stop terrorists from using social media to incite violence. After the meetings, the White House announced a new Department of Homeland Security counterterrorism task force designed to create a new online effort which will include more local anti-terrorist efforts. Now, the State Department says the goal is to, quote, do a better job of involving and empowering foreign governments and non-governmental groups. The Washington Post says the U.S. government will also stop producing local anti-terror campaigns in English and create them in the local language instead to help stem the tide of grassroots extremism.
Whew. It's a heavy topic in my first week on Tech News Today. That's all I got to say. It sounds like encryption, which we keep hearing about, you know, as kind of part of this conversation, was a piece, though not the focus of this meeting. And I think kind of been reading through it and everything, you know, based on what's kind of already being done. Facebook kind of has their own rules in place, a zero tolerance policy on, you know, kind of posts that relate to terrorist organizations, all that kind of stuff that they enforce. Twitter has updated its policy on abuse pretty recently, end of last year. Threatening or promoting terrorism, you know, is kind of their qualifications there. I guess I just don't understand how a company, especially in this kind of this political landscape, the global kind of position that we're in, where it's always changing, you know, where the definition of what terrorist speak is and all that kind of stuff, like it's easy to for someone in the U.S. to come up with a definition of what that means to us, right? But how does a company like Twitter enforce that on a global scale, understanding all the subtleties around the world? I just don't know how that's possible. I understand that that's what they're being tasked to do. I just don't know how that is done very easily for a company like Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, Ryan, you have a small social network. You don't deal with any of this yet, I assume, but
We hope not.
do you have any thoughts on this?
Nothing, no terrorism on Product Hunt or Speak that I know
That's good.
of.
That's good.
That I know of. But yeah, you're right. It's very subjective. It's one of those things that where's the line? It's a very fine line between very explicit terrorist speak or hate speech, or you can go in that topic as well, and things that are more subtle. So I don't have good answers on this. I'm not envious of people in those positions that have to make those calls. So for me, it's just a really tricky topic to nail down. And ultimately, no one's going to come up with an answer that satisfies everyone on this topic for sure.
For sure. All right. I don't know if we have much more than that. This was a chunky one to.
Yeah, it's one of those things
I know,
that is
that was
definitely.
heavy.
Yeah, I know. It's the most important technology news right now, right? It's more important than anything that's going on in CES, but like it's not a problem that we have the ability to solve.
Yes, that's true. And if we did, we'd get paid a lot of money and have a lot of people knocking
above
on our
our
door
pay
for
grade.
our help.
But
So
yes,
there we go. Shifting gears pretty much entirely. Project Tango is Google's technology platform that allows a device to detect its position in space without common methods used, usually like GPS. Tango devices use a combination of onboard sensors and camera data to do all of that work. Really neat hardware. Since debuting 2 years ago, the Tango tablets have been more or less an experiment than anything else, not necessarily a consumer product. This is video of me at this last year's Google I/O playing with a Tango tablet. You can see as I'm moving around with this tablet that's mounted onto a gun, it actually tracks my location in space and turns the room into a play field. Super cool stuff. This is all about to change. Google's teaming up with Lenovo to release a Project Tango phone to consumers with a sub 6.5-inch screen for under $500 sometime this summer. I'm jazzed. I'm hyped because I really like. There's a lot of things you can do with a device that has this kind of spatial recognition. Things like measuring a wall, for example, is just one of many examples. Obviously, lots of applications in gaming, but to see it finally kind of hit consumers. I'm very curious to see what developers come up with here.
so the idea is it'll be a phone, like a virtual reality phone. You won't need goggles. You'll just be able to look at the screen.
Well, yeah. I mean, think of it less as like specifically a virtual reality device, though that could be very useful on a device that has these kinds of sensors. It's just a smarter smartphone, I guess. It has extra sensors in there that are specifically designed to track itself in space, where it happens to be. So you could, for example, they've shown off demos of running the phone and mapping as you're going up a flight of stairs into these different places. And as you walk around, the onboard sensors and cameras are literally capturing the space around you, and you're creating this three-dimensional map inside the phone to navigate, not just walking forward, backwards, and sides, but up and down. Really cool stuff.
So there are some apps already on the Google Play Store. Have you seen anything, any Project Tango related things on Product Hunt, Ryan?
There was this one project. It's called Appley, I believe. I'd have to look up the exact pronunciation, but it's actually an app for people that have hard time seeing. And I have not tried it yet, but they have a demo video, and you open up the app and you can point it at various things. So I can point it at the chair to my right, or this whiteboard, or the carpet, and it will say carpet. It will say whiteboard. It will actually say what the object is.
Oh, that's cool.
And another use case is you're in the grocery store and you're trying to buy, let's say, some soda, and it will say like cherry Coke, regular Coke, and so on. And it's a really cool example of how AR and this technology can be used to help people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Now, developers can actually get in on this right now. They can submit app ideas to the Project Tango app incubator. So if you are a developer and you're like, man, if I had this hardware, just think of this cool thing, that I could create. You get a chance at funding and a feature spot on the phone's box when it releases this summer. So very cool stuff, though. I'm really excited to see a consumer release of this because we've known about it for a couple of years, and it's the possibilities are great, but you just kind of wondered, like, it's not going to be anything beyond an enthusiast tool until they kind of come out with a consumer phone and say, all right, how excited are consumers about this?
Right. Well, that video of you at Google I/O is so interesting because it's one of the interesting things about virtual reality, because you have a gun. I mean, obviously, it's a plastic fake gun, but you're pointing it at someone.
I know, right? and meanwhile, you're doing it in the
by.
middle of a conference, and so people are like, hey, what are you pointing that thing at me for?
Right. So it's one
Everybody
of those
was there. I mean, if you were there was like a sea of like 5 or 10 people, all in their own game. Like none of them are playing each other. You know, they're in their own space. Although I would imagine you could probably sync it up if you know, somehow.
Well, yesterday we told you about rumors that Apple was going to get rid of the headphone jack on the iPhone 7, and instead you can connect the sound through your Lightning port. Instead, now today, Mark Gurman from 9 to 5 Mac said his reliable sources at Apple have told him the same thing. There was quite a furor online about the loss of the headphone jack, including a petition that you could sign to Apple to keep the headphone jack in the iPhone 7. Please do not waste your time signing that petition. Instead, hang on to your iPhone 6, maybe. Maybe you don't have to upgrade, or you can get yourself some adapters. Gurman also reports the rumors of a cord-free Beats earbuds that will allegedly sell for under $500 and will be available sometime this summer. Will you miss the headphone jack, Ryan Hoover?
To be honest, I know a lot of people are upset about this, but I don't care that much. I mean, if it's going to make the phone smaller, and if they probably have some valid reasons from a technical standpoint of why to get rid of it. Of course, a lot of people are a little cynical, and maybe truthfully so, that they're doing this to sell adapters and to upsell you on other devices. But I'm not that upset about it, because when I upgrade to another phone, I think it's not going to be a big issue for me to buy a $20 or $30 adapter for my Bose headphones, for example.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we've seen time and time again is that people who are truly passionate about Apple products are willing to give Apple the benefit of the doubt when it comes to certain things like this. I think what's interesting about this versus, let's say, Lightning connector, you know, or FireWire, you know, the ones in the past that have knocked out other things that you would expect to find in their devices, is that a 3.5-inch, you know, headphone jack. I mean, that's been common in all types of devices, not just their phones, but in everything for years and years and years. You know, like we've talked about before. I've got a drawer at home filled with headphones. You know, nothing but headphones that all fit that type of an adapter. And that's a big gamble, I suppose. But I don't think it would really hurt Apple to do that. Not to mention, kind of the whole cordless headphone aspect of things, right? Like that really is where people are headed. Maybe if I'm not, but so I suppose I understand. It's just a difficult safety net to get rid of. You know what I mean?
Well, we all thought we would need a keyboard too, and we don't need that, like a physical keyboard.
Oh, on a phone. I was like, no, I still need my keyboard. I need my keyboard. Touch is great.
I still have
need
that
my
petition
keyboard.
I signed to keep the physical keyboard on the phone. But
the petitions, that's always kind of funny to me. Like, I get it though. You want to voice your concern, you got to go somewhere. Where are you going to do it? A petition. There's, you know, all the people in one place. You know, power in numbers, I suppose. But you're not changing Apple's mind. If they're going to do this, they're going to do this because they know better than you, in air quotes. So there you go. If you like your drones to be stalkers, as in your own drone is stalking you, then the Lily is what you want. And if that's what you want, you wouldn't be alone. Lily had pre-sale orders through its website, bypassing sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and announced yesterday that 60,000 people have signed up for one, totaling $34 million in sales. This drone is really neat, though. Like, you just stand there, you just throw it up in the air, it finds its balance, and then it follows you. No big deal. Just stalking you the whole way down the mountain as you snowboard down the mountain. I know. I want one. What do you think? You don't look so convinced,
no,
Megan.
I think it's very cool. I will not buy one. If someone wants to buy one for me, I'd be happy to take it. It's just the price thing is funny to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's $800, and just like this week, everyone has been up in arms that the Oculus Rift is going to cost $600, and that's I mean, I guess this is a new thing too, but to me, it's just interesting, like how you can sell a device, and they seem to be selling this really well, and not selling it on Kickstarter too, because I think people are now afraid of Kickstarter. Like, you're actually buying a drone. You know, you're not just supporting a campaign for a drone that might or might not be made.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Are you going to have a drone flying behind your shoulders the next time we have you on the show, Ryan?
I would love one. So I don't know if you played Mario growing up, but do you remember the
Yes.
Flipicams? the Koopa cams that would follow you
Yes.
around.
Oh, absolutely,
So
man.
that's what the Lily is to me. It's like a Koopa
That's great.
cam that follows you around. And so this is actually one of the most upvoted products on Product Hunt last year. And immediately once it launched, people were gravitating towards it because it's almost so much magical. It's this thing that follows you around and films you. And the use cases they provide are also spectacular. Like I love snowboarding, and I would love to have a video of that to watch later.
Oh man, you know, I just had a crazy thought, and I don't know if this would be possible, but I would love to see this. Speaking of virtual reality, which has been a total theme this week, imagine if this was taking the Koopa Cam idea. Imagine if this was flying behind you. You're wearing virtual goggles, watching yourself walking wherever you happen to be going.
Ooh,
That's
like a third person.
Yeah, you are the third person game. My brain just exploded, but that would be so cool.
Yeah, you better make that immediately.
This needs to happen, and I'm sure somebody's already working on it. Just for clarification, $7.99 for the pre-order. And then once it actually goes on sale, $1,000.
Okay, so Ryan, you see a lot of products and how people like them or upvote them. Do you think $1,000 is a good price for something like this?
It seems reasonable for technology like this. It's brand new. Drones themselves are in this price range alone, ones that don't have this type of technology. And it also has a camera built in. So for me, it's certainly not like a mainstream product, probably. But for a first launch, I think it's a reasonable price.
Yeah. Follow up with something maybe a little bit more reasonably priced, perhaps down the line.
Yeah. Well, moving on, writing in ZDNet, Mary Jo Foley says that Microsoft released Windows 10 mobile updates to some insider testers on their Windows Phone today. Although there was no word on what was in this secret build, Foley explained that this isn't the build that Microsoft, other Windows Phone makers and carriers are planning to make available to Windows Phone 8.1 users. Now, Windows 10 Mobile was supposed to begin rolling out to Windows Phone users in December, but they have pushed that up to early 2016. So I guess this is early 2016 now. And some advanced insiders are getting it.
I guess there was an issue when it was starting to roll out, which kind of slowed things down. That's back and going again. The problem is we have absolutely no idea what the update brings. So look for it, I suppose.
If you are an insider, if you are an insider and you want to be the first to run the newest build of Windows 10.
Yes.
And we have some other Windows 10 mobile news. The Verge reports that Microsoft is building its own SIM card for Windows. Intrepid reporter spotted a new app in the Microsoft Store called Cellular Data. It appears to let you choose between cellular carriers for your new Windows Phone. So, Jason, I was looking at this today. This kind of makes maybe a Windows Phone more like a Project Fi phone?
Well, maybe. I mean, Project Fi is unique in the sense, so Project Fi is more like an MVNO. So it's tagging on to the T-Mobile and the Sprint network, as well as kind of Google's kind of Wi-Fi cleared places. And it's doing some interesting kind of like network switching in order to do that. And I don't know that we really see other companies doing that right now.
So that's automatic network switching, as opposed to this is just being able to use a card to switch.
Well, and we don't really know very much about this. We know that there will be a Windows SIM, and it's going to be, the plans are going to be sold through the Windows Store. Data is going to be tied to a Microsoft account. Beyond that, it could be an MVNO, which is a mobile virtual network, by the way, using somebody else's network along that lines. It could be like the Apple SIM, and that, they have partners with AT&T, Sprint, and all that kind of stuff, but they're not necessarily doing an MVNO necessarily. They just have a SIM that supports those partners, and they've worked out deals in that regard, and T-Mobile. So I don't know if we know enough to know exactly at this point where this is going to land, but yeah, there you go.
So, Ryan, I know a lot of the Product Hunt community is a lot of iOS users, but do you have a big Windows users community on there too?
It's actually very small. Most people are on Mac on the desktop, and then a lot of people are on iOS. However, it's probably from Android to iOS, maybe like a 60-40 split if I was to estimate based on website traffic, because we have a global audience, about 50% of the people outside the US. But a lot of the apps and things that are created are usually iOS first, at least the most innovative. I put that in quotes. Apps seem to be iOS first, like Peach, for example, which I think we might get into later.
Yes, we will. The secret Peach.
Guaranteed. Stick around for that. And finally, Google removed 13 Android apps from its Play Store after it was discovered by security researchers that those apps were trying to gain root access on the devices and surviving even a factory reset. As well, the malware, which is actually called Brain Test, could download other apps directly from the Play Store. And in doing so, then follow up by leaving a positive review by that user on the pages of other affected apps. And this just got me thinking, like, how many times they've seen these apps. I'm like, how on earth do you have like 5-star rating and all of these ratings? How did this ever get there? And I'm not saying that it's definitely this, but if this is possible, that explains at least a little bit. I mean, the App Store is just so huge and so filled. Like, I guess I can kind of understand how this could go undetected. But in this case, researchers at Lookout, found it. They actually said that some of the games that were, part of this are actually like fully realized, well-designed, well-developed games that are actually a lot of fun. So it's kind of like... It's not just some crummy game that's also packing some sort of malware inside. It have to be a lot of fun, but they're not on there anymore, so I won't go into listing what those games are because you can't even find them anymore.
Maybe you need a new product hunt section, Ryan, of like malware that's actually fun to play.
Yes, that's not a bad idea. We'll create a collection of those. So that'd be great.
If your device is going to get taken over, you might as well play a fun game in the process.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Exactly.
That's what you pay for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, coming up, we're going to talk to Father Robert Ballacer live from the floor of CES and Sam Machkovech from Ars Technica about his take on this week's gaming news. But first, let's take a minute to thank the first sponsor of this episode, ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring but not sure where to find the best candidates? As a business owner, your company is only as good as the people you hire. Now, we're about a week into New Year's, and if your resolution is to hire better people, then get on that. It's easier said than done, though, right? Posting jobs in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates, and short staffing leaves little time to post to dozens of job sites. Now, if you could only hire someone to hire someone, well, you don't need to. You could build yourself a job posting robot, but who has the time for that? I certainly don't. That's kind of what ZipRecruiter is. Thanks to ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100 plus job sites with one single click and be instantly matched to candidates from over nearly 6 million resumes. So just post once, and in 24 hours, you can watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it now for free. Getting the right people for your company is so important. Scott is a happy ZipRecruiter client. He says, the recruiting process used to be so painful. Before, I'd post to several places, get 1 million resumes, but only a few responses from qualified candidates. It was torture. But with ZipRecruiter, we post once and get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of our best employees using ZipRecruiter. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today.
All right, so we've got a couple of kind of like back-to-back interviews right now. Super thrilled to welcome to the show Sam Machkovech, culture reporter for Ars Technica. How's it going, Sam?
It's going well. How's it going, everybody?
Fantastic.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking about just kind of gaming in general. Sometimes I feel like gaming doesn't get talked about a lot, at least on the Twit network, on some of the other shows. So you and I thought, hey, let's get some more gaming on here. So it's great to have you on here to talk about that stuff. Of course, some of these topics we have discussed a little bit, but I'm curious to get your take on it. Obviously, we've heard a ton about VR this week, virtual reality, and the news keeps happening. Apparently, the founder of Oculus apologized about how they communicated the Rift price. What's that all about, Sam?
So Oculus Rift has been advertised in one way or another for years. And Palmer Luckey, the creator of Oculus Rift, has always been pretty forthright on social media and in interviews. He's always been kind of a no-nonsense guy and has always sort of tempered expectations for a price that was close to the $350 mark. So when the pre-orders went live this week at a price of $600 a pop, he pretty quickly ate crow by way of a Reddit Ask Me Anything. Talked about messaging poorly, explained how they're not going to make a single dollar on any of these Oculus Rift units that are sold. By the way, you can see his shining, beautiful body and face right there in that awful time cover.
I remember that one.
But he did, after the price went out and people complained, he did a really good job, honestly, of getting ahead of any further complaints, saying that it was his fault, saying that he could have tempered expectations better. Even went so far as to talk about there's a controller, an add-on called Oculus Touch that's going to come out supposedly sometime this year. And he will no longer even become close to predicting the price of that. He said, I've learned my lesson.
Now, okay, so I'm really looking forward to the Oculus Rift. I've made no bones about that on this show the last couple of days. I'm also really looking forward to the HTC Vive. And we talked a little bit earlier this week about the Vive Pre. What's your take on that?
The Vive Pre, I wonder ultimately how it's going to turn out. I was not at CES. I will hopefully get to try out the Vive Pre pretty soon. What it does is it adds something on a base level that no other major virtual reality set has even come close to teasing, which is the ability to see the surrounding world without having to take off your headset. That is no small selling point for people who are terrified of virtual reality, who are terrified of looking like that guy on the screen right there with a helmet on your face, and you might bump into something. And with the Vive, that's doubly important because this is the system where you are expected to walk around. Get out of the chair, walk around a preset room. You can sit at a desk if you want, but a lot of the apps are going to be designed for moving around a walking space. So the idea that you could at any point flip a switch and see a little bit of your reality, perhaps if you have a cat, this could be a deal breaker, that you do not kill your cat while playing with virtual reality. So
Don't want to do that.
But the other issue that hasn't really been answered as far as I'm concerned is comfort. Oculus Rift has the most comfortable set yet. I think when they talk about that $600 price point, they're really not whistling Dixie about getting that price to give you something comfortable. It is the least in terms of weight, heaviness, and bulk, and also in terms of air getting through, airflow. These aren't small things if you're putting a headset on. And the Vive is a little heavier. The Vive does not have quite that same structure to keep on your head in that way. I've never tested any of these headsets for more than 30 minutes at a time. Once people own them, I think that's going to be a much bigger talking point. Oculus has the lead on that. The Pre doesn't necessarily, but they've done everything else they need to, especially with that webcam, to give them sort of a leg up and say, you aren't going to need to get an upgrade in 6 months for certain things that are going to really matter.
Sure. And one kind of VR solution that we're not hearing a lot about, actually, Tabrez wrote in and said, hey guys, great show. I know VR is huge about now, but I hardly hear you talking about PlayStation VR, which seems to be the closest to release. When is that releasing, and what can you tell us about that?
So no release date has been set. That's going to be the first half of this year, supposedly. In fact, until any of these come out, we really don't know. What I can say is that I was lucky enough to head to the PlayStation Experience Expo in San Francisco in December, where they had a ton of PlayStation VR. You can see me there looking super cool. It's definitely likely to be the most affordable because you don't need a $1,000 computer, give or take.
Yeah.
You're going to potentially be able to buy a $350 gaming machine, which is pretty powerful, and attach a headset. Now, whatever they price the PlayStation VR at is another story. But it works. It works with the webcam that's already out. It works with the PlayStation Move wands, which are already out. So you may be able to get away with that at $800 grand total for the system and the headset combined. We don't know if that'll even happen. The main thing is that the headset is also going to come with a special dongle, which may add extra processing power, which may add to the cost. That's really an unknown. Sony hasn't come ahead of predicting anything price-wise. But I think there's a much better chance of that one getting into more homes because of the fact that it's a game system. There's just a certain cachet to that that nothing else on the market currently has, not even the Gear VR, in my opinion.
Well, so the Oculus Rift is really for people who are early adopters. They're really into it. And is the place, are there a lot of people that are just going to get both? Are people having to make the decision, do I want the PlayStation VR, do I want the Oculus? Or is that the decision, or do you think a lot of these people are early adopters that want everything?
I'm sure there are going to be some rich kids who get every single thing, and kind of like the kid who had a Neo Geo in the early 90s who I was really jealous of.
Yes,
that thing
I was jealous of that kid too.
But there's ultimately going to be a very weird distribution of who buys this stuff because we don't know how many are going to get made. We don't really know the price point of what HTC and what Sony are doing. So it's honestly going to come down to what comes out both hardware and software-wise. If you come out with a VR system and you don't have a bazillion games or a bazillion good games, then that changes everything. There are going to be people who buy everything no matter what, but that's not a market. That's just a dip. These companies, Facebook in particular, wants to essentially be this thing that you think of VR as Oculus for the next 10 or 15 years. So this is the first step. This is losing money now in order to have the name out there. HTC is in a weird spot because they are losing money. They just had yet another monthly report of finances, and they are not doing well. We've actually put them in our Ars Technica death watch list for this year because their phones haven't been doing well. They're betting a lot on VR. So who even knows if HTC will make it to the end of the year in terms of producing headsets? There's a lot of question marks about what is really going to emerge and how many people are going to buy.
But man, there's a lot of solutions coming out this very year, so we're going to find a lot. I mean, this is a crazy year for VR. It's kind of moving on and speaking to what you were talking about as far as like lots of great games. Ars Technica picked out some of the best video games of 2015. The editors, of course, you have your opinions. What are a couple of those?
So it's always a big battle when we are asked to do any sort of list. Our comment sections in the public aren't even as bad as the email threads we have privately at Ars Technica. But we had to whittle down to 20 games. We were able to narrowly get a consensus on the game Rocket League. Rocket League is my personal pick for best of the year. That is cars meets soccer. There's a bit of a, oh God, what is that show that's on the BBC with cars? You know what I'm talking about. Top Gear. There was sort of a Top Gear thing where cars bumped into giant soccer balls. And that, as a video game, has been my favorite esport, my favorite multiplayer game. Really exciting. We had a lot of people who were really huge into Fallout 4 who swore that was their best game of the year. I disagreed. I said so at length in a review a while back. Other favorites I had, Downwell is on the screen right now, which is a iOS and hopefully one day Android jumping around game. Very simple to use a touchscreen in order to jump around in this very action-y, falling all the time, shooting stuff, bumping into stuff. It's just, even though if you're tired of retro aesthetics, don't worry about it. It's totally worth buying into. It's a very, very good 2 minutes to 2 hours kind of mobile game.
Has like a Metroid quality to it too.
It is really, really cool, and there's a lot of little fun, tricky stuff for that sort of quick, tappy, actiony sort of game. And Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. There are a few staffers that love that. I did in particular. That's the one where one player looks at a screen, the other player looks at an old instruction manual, and they don't see what the other person sees. So they have to talk to each other, looking at different things to defuse a bomb within a certain amount of time. So the person looking at the screen will have some gibberish. The person looking at the book will go, oh, that gibberish means X, Y, and Z. It's a lot of back and forth. It will break up a marriage if your marriage is not quite solid. So that is my one warning. But other than that, that one's really fun. The list has a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of mix of the big budget stuff like Just Cause and Tomb Raider, and some of the smaller fry things like Her Story and Undertale. 2015, as ever, has been a really good year for a giant range of games. I've been really fortunate to play a ton of them on Ars Technica's dime. So thanks a lot, Ars, for that.
Nice. It's too bad that it's your job to play games and talk about them and write about them. It's actually not too bad because we get you on the show as a result. So thank you so much for coming on, Sam Machkovech. Tell people kind of what you're working on now, where people should go to find exactly your work, the stuff that you're doing right now.
Well, arstechnica.com has everything you need to see. On Monday, I'm going to have a review of a game, as it were, called That Dragon Cancer. I won't call it fun, but it is gorgeous, it is compelling, it is sad. There's actually there are a lot of stories this past week, including the latest episode of Radiolab talks to the creators of that. I'll have my review up there at arstechnica.com on Monday, and I'll be happy to talk about that at length next week if I can keep my eyes dry. It's incredible.
Right on, Sam. We really appreciate having you on. Thanks so much, and have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sam.
it. See you guys.
All right. See you later, man.
So now let's move on to CES. We've got Father Robert Ballacer, again, live from the show floor. I think we've got him. So that is not your bedroom, nor is it your hotel room. That seems to be a smart house where you are. Is that correct?
This is CES in bed. This is perhaps the best way to view CES. They just wheel me around. I go booth to booth, all the while relaxing.
Awesome. Well, I know you wanted to talk about a smart home. Also, I would love for you to talk about this hoverboard story. Now, I know hoverboards were banned from the show floor for people. They couldn't bring them and ride them around. But, there were booths. But what is this we hear about federal marshals raiding the booths of one hoverboard maker?
Yeah, this actually was happening yesterday while we were in the South Hall. Now, there's a company called Future Motion that we interviewed last year. They make a self-balancing skateboard. It has one big wheel in the middle. It's kind of it's a one-wheel Segway, basically. Well, they saw a company in China by the name of Changzhou First International that was making something that looked exactly like their product. They were calling it the Totter. They sent them a cease and desist. They never heard back. And then they found out that this company was going to be at CES in the South Hall. So they actually got U.S. Marshals. Now, remember, this was on day 2 of the show, to go to the South Hall And while all the employees were just watching, they took all the product, all the signage, everything that indicated that this was this company, and they took it away as evidence. So you have a booth in the middle of the South Hall where a bunch of non-English speaking employees are just looking around wondering if they're being robbed.
So didn't they know that if you're wanted, you go to CES with a telepresence robot, as Edward Snowden did?
Exactly. I mean, this is a rookie mistake. It's a rookie mistake, Megan. It never should have happened.
All right. So speaking of the former, what we used to call hoverboards with a stick that you hold on to, Segway, were there some things that you saw about Segway that you wanted to tell us about?
Segway actually had a really big announcement, and they were a finalist for Best of CES. Now, it's called the 9-Bot, and think of it as a mini Segway. It's like a scaled-down Segway, and it doesn't have a handlebar like the larger Segways that we all rode for the opening of the new screensavers. Instead, you drive this with your knee. Now, it's not just smaller, but it's foldable, so it can actually fit into the back of your car. You can put it into your trunk, which really opens up the possibilities. This now becomes the last mile of your commute. You could park quite a distance away, jump on this thing, and get, I think, was 20 miles of range. Now, my personal favorite part, it wasn't the Segway part, it was the fact that this is also a robot. It will self-balance on its own, and you can do two modes. One, that you control with your smartphone, so you could have it go fetch a beer for you if you'd like. And two, there's a module you can put on top, and it will follow you. It takes a picture of you, then it knows to follow you. So you could put, say, your Christmas shopping on the 9-Bot, and it will walk behind you.
There's a lot going on today with like drones or bots that just follow you. I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but
So Ryan, have you seen
this is the rise of our robotic overlords.
yeah, pretty much.
have you seen that on Product Hunt yet? Has anybody posted the Segway, Ryan, or the any of the one-wheeled hoverboards that are wanted?
Yes, we've seen some of the hoverboards, which, by the way, I don't like calling them hoverboards because I feel like it's not a real hoverboard, but that's another topic. I've seen the Segway. It looks pretty rad. I also saw the Double Robotics 2 as well, which is the telepresence robotic iPad carrying device, which is what they probably should have used to be demoing their hoverboards so they couldn't get caught in person.
So you haven't seen any real hoverboards yet on Product Hunt. That's maybe
That
where
actually work.
Well, actually, there have been some announcements. They haven't launched, but Lexus Slide. I think this was 6 or 7 months ago. I don't know if you've seen that. It made some waves, and they had a really epic demo video actually of it working. And who knows if it'll ever come out? But I upvoted it. It looks pretty cool. I want it to exist.
There was also a guy who used dry ice and a board to make his own hoverboard. I don't know if you saw that. It was right up your alley, Robert, like a know-how segment. I'm sure you could make using all the kinds of tools. But I want to move on to something else that you said you saw called insertable wearables. Was that a joke or a real thing?
No, that's unfortunately, it's a real thing. So the Internet of Things now includes the Internet of insertable things. And, yeah, it's just like it sounds. It's just like it sounds, man.
Oh, really? I thought it was maybe tattoos or something. No. You go.
No, so there are a couple of categories. There are a couple of categories here. So some of them are pregnancy aids that will tell you when it's time to try to conceive a child. There's another category that we found downstairs in the Innovation Pavilion that are insertables as marital aids that sync to your device so that you can read erotic fiction and then it connects you to the world.
I'm so glad I asked you about that. Thank you.
I'm sorry we asked you about that.
If I may. Yeah, I'd love to talk about another product category here because Internet of Things is actually a real thing. It's not just insertables. There are two other products that I think were really standouts in the South Hall. And the reason why I'm sitting in a bed right now is because I'm at a booth called Sleep Ace. I've been looking for something like this for a very long time. Now, Megan, you're a big fan of the iWatch. I know the iWatch can do sleep tracking, but I cannot wear a watch. And not only that, once I know that I'm not getting enough sleep, I don't really have a good way of making that better. Sleep Ace does this. This is the Rest On. This is a very thin pad, and what it does is actually lies underneath the sheet. It's Bluetooth connected to your phone, so you can keep your phone far, far away. And the idea is after it collects all the data from your restfulness to your heart rate to your breathing rate, it can actually give you the correctives. It can tell you, we saw this. Do you have any bright lights? Or do you have any lights that are this color? Or have you tried not doing this right before bed? It actually trains you. It's like a smart screen for your sleep life. And I think this is probably one of the best Internet of Things products that I've seen come out of this all.
I do like that idea because I do have an Apple Watch, but the battery does not even make it through an entire day. It sometimes doesn't even make it through an entire workday anymore. I'm working on it, but yeah, so that would be nice for sleep tracking.
This battery lasts a month, so you charge it once a month and it's good to go. So yeah, it's nice to have an actual dedicated device. And this is only, I think it's $149. I'm actually going to give this a try because I really would like to see what technology could do for the quality of my sleep. This is the Internet of Restful Things.
Well, Robert, thank you so much. Father Robert, of course, a host on the network, Know How. And This Week in Enterprise Tech. Know How is now twice a week. This Week in Enterprise Tech is once a week. And we miss you, so please come home.
Thank you, Megan and Jason. And if you don't mind, I'm going to just, it's been a long conference, and I'll see you next year.
You do what you got to do, Father Robert. We understand. Even if people walking by look at you strangely, don't worry about it. Good night. Good night.
That's nice.
Father Robert Ballacer.
All right. Well, coming up.
There we go. I almost fell asleep with that blank screen.
Looks
Ryan,
so peaceful.
I know.
He did, yes. Ryan is going to tell us about some other things that are hot on Product Hunt, including an app called Peach that the Twitterati thinks might be the next best thing, or at least the next best thing to make fun of on Twitter. But first, let's take a minute to thank the second sponsor of this episode. If you are a freelancer, I bet you love the freedom of working in your pajamas, working your own hours, but all of that flexibility usually comes with a big price, the hassle of all the administrative stuff. Here's a short list of what I hated when I was a freelancer, rummaging through receipts, trying to keep track of expenses, creating, formatting, and sending invoices, and the worst, tracking down customers who don't pay on time. FreshBooks is the super simple cloud accounting software that's giving thousands of businesses just like yours the tools to save time billing and get paid faster. Getting started on FreshBooks couldn't be easier, even if you're not a numbers person. You'll be creating and sending invoices in minutes and get paid online right away with FreshBooks payments. Get paid up front. Now you can request a deposit in FreshBooks. No more covering costs out of pocket or waiting until the end of a project to get paid. Plus, FreshBooks just announced their new card reader. Now you can easily accept credit cards wherever business takes you, quickly and securely right from your iPhone in less than a minute. FreshBooks card reader is EMV chip card enabled. That's the new standard in the U.S. With their entirely redesigned iPhone app, you can conduct business anywhere. You can send an estimate right after the handshake, send an invoice in seconds right on your phone. It's easy to track all your billable time. Now you'll know how long your projects really take, so just throw away that shoebox of documents. Please track expenses on the spot using your phone's camera. All this allows you to focus on what you love most to grow your business. You'll wonder why you didn't start with FreshBooks sooner. If you have questions, help is free forever, and you can always count on FreshBooks award-winning support rock stars to go above and beyond whenever you need a hand. Getting started is simple, and it's totally free for 30 days. Go to freshbooks.com/TNT, and don't forget to enter Tech News Today in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Start your 30-day free trial, and we thank FreshBooks for supporting this episode of Tech News Today. Okay, Ryan, all day on Twitter, I've been seeing posts about a new social networking app called Peach. Tell us what's interesting about it and whether we need it or not.
Yes. Well, first off, terrific branding, right? I mean, I've been seeing Peaches in my Twitter feed all day. And how can you not download an app called Peach that everyone's talking about? So for those that haven't played with it, you download it and you sign in, you enter a username, enter your email, and what you see is your profile. And you can enter, it's kind of like Facebook actually back in the day where everyone had a wall. And when you go there, you can see the onboarding process here. You'll see people's profiles. You connect to your friends, you can view their wall, and you can post what you're doing. You can post GIFs, you can post images, you can post what you're listening to. So all these things that you can kind of do on a typical social network. But what's interesting about it is partly the design and also these magic keywords, which you'll see here shortly in the onboarding flow, is you can type words like weather and it will pull in the weather. And you can type words like song and it start pulling in the song that you're listening to and other things like that. it just launched. As with many other social networks and social apps in general, people start gravitating towards them and have fun with them. And who knows if it's something that will stick around, but it's something that I'm having fun with.
Okay.
Have you tried it?
As I said, I downloaded it earlier and it just kept spinning, finding friends. It was a little insulting, actually, after a while. But when you were talking about it, I got some friends. Leo Laporte is now my friend on Peaches, and Lisa Laporte and Patrick Delahanty, all my friends on Peaches, and they're posting things. So it's cool. And now that I hear you describe it, which is the case for so many things, because, on Twitter, sometimes people like to make fun of things and you think, oh, I don't need that. But it's really useful.
It's kind of fun, and it also reminds me of AIM status messages back in the day. I used to live on AIM. After middle school, I would go on after school and just chat on AIM. And status messages were this thing where you'd set your status, the things that you're doing right now, and you would update it, on occasion. But it's not like Twitter where you're just constantly putting information out. It's small updates. It's what I'm doing right now, and there's some nostalgic element of Peach that I do like.
And it's free, right? But iOS only for now.
Wah, wah.
Yes.
Wah, wah. All the good usernames are going to be taken up by the time I get it installed on my Nexus 6P.
I'm going to save the username for you.
Thanks. I would appreciate that. Just don't sell it back to me.
I might sell it back. We'll see how this goes.
All right. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell if I'm just getting older or if I'm having true social network fatigue right now. Like the thought of starting over on another network just kind of frightens me.
Well, you can have many.
Well, that's the problem. But then you're splintered across all of these different networks. And at least for me, I'm fighting to understand why I choose one over the other. They have differentiators, but anytime a new social network comes along and you got to buy into it, where you got to find your way into it, you're starting from scratch again. You're building up your user list. You're seeing who's actually passionate about using it. And five weeks in, nobody's using it anymore. Great. I just spent all that time and now I'm not using it anymore. I don't know.
I may be weird and unique in this sense, but I download and play with apps because I'm curious. I'm really curious, what is it like? And, what's the onboarding flow like? And how do people use it? And it doesn't actually matter to me if personally, if Peach sticks around indefinitely. It's something that I am just having fun with. Yeah. Similar to a game. You play a game for a week, you have some fun, and then you move on.
Oh, and believe me, I'm no stranger to that either. I review a lot of apps on this network, so I'm installing these things left, right, and center, and curious for the same reasons that you're talking about, Ryan, just kind of about the experience and everything. And I guess any app that does come out and has a great experience is going to, some are going to rise to the top and some are just going to go away, but you still kind of have a little fun with it while it's around, I suppose.
And we also love to be the first ones on something.
Yeah, right.
It's like There's I can't even deal with Google Plus because I'm just so late to the game and there's so much going on. And I told you, I was like, when we have time, I want you to sit down and show me the best way to use Google Plus because there's so much coming at me and everyone knows how to use it but me. So now I'm going to be a Peaches expert. So there's another new app called Stolen. It says it's designed to help you collect and trade your favorite people on Twitter. So collecting and trading people. What's this all about, Ryan?
That sounds scary.
And illegal.
Yes, it does sound kind of strange. It's similar to how you collect baseball cards or basketball cards, for example, except these are people on Twitter or brands on Twitter. So the way it works is you sign up and you have to have an invite code first. So they're actually restricting how many people can contribute. But once you get an invite code, you can start purchasing people with these coins that you start earning. And so I will own my friend JS Needles, for example, and I can buy Justin Bieber. I can't afford him actually now. He's hundreds of millions of coins, unfortunately.
How much does Jeffrey Needles cost?
Much less than Justin Bieber. Much less. And so what you'll find is that if you go on Twitter right now, if you search for stolen code, you'll see thousands of people looking for codes because a lot of people want to play. They want to play the game. And every 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you'll see someone asking for a code. So we're seeing this app blow up right now in the App Store. It's in the top 200 in the US App Store, most downloaded. And there's clearly, they've tapped into something that's of interest to people.
So, Ryan, I know you wouldn't mention this because you are a modest man, but Forbes wrote up about it today, and they actually sort of talk about Product Hunt as the rise. This was a company that was going to, looked like they were about to give up on the company, but then really, it came on Product Hunt, people found it and started to download it. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was Aaron Griffith at Fortune. She wrote the article about 3 hours ago. So they just published it. And I think that might have been the first press that I've seen. It first launched and it was on Product Hunt 9 days ago. Siki, the CEO and team, they've been doing some beta testing. I was actually in the beta briefly. And yeah, they launched it. And I'm not going to I wouldn't say that Product Hunt is why it's blowing up by any means. It's much bigger than just our audience that's playing with it. But it was on there very early on, and our community gravitated towards it and had fun. So it's just a fun distraction. I'm really curious to see how it evolves. And it's also just really fun to buy your friends and say, hey, I own you. It's so get a code and join.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't get a code now, but I'm going to buy Jeffrey Needles as soon as I get a code.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another app, Jelly. Now, this is an app created by Biz Stone, who was one of the founders of Twitter. It's not new, but tell us what it does and why are we hearing about it in the news today?
Yeah, so Jelly, many of you may remember it from about 2 years ago. They launched it, and they had this vision of really it's a Q&A service, unique approach to answering your question. And the way it would work in the very beginning, their first launch is you would ask a question, and then it would distribute it to your friends. It could be a very specific question like, what TV should I buy? Or it could be, what's your favorite book? It could be any kind of question at all. And it would distribute it to all your friends. They would respond with an answer. And they worked on that for a while, maybe a year and a half. And it seemed like it just didn't take off. And they started then working on Super, which is a totally different app. Now, I think it was yesterday, Biz wrote an article just really re-announcing that they're revisiting Jelly and taking a different approach to it. And it sounds like, they're moving in this direction that a lot of other companies are moving into in some ways, where Magic and Facebook M and Operator, all of these services are text-based messaging services to answer or do something for you, essentially. And while I haven't played with the new Jelly, I've only read about the description, it seems like it's operating within that area of space, which I think is really interesting. So I'm very curious to see what it looks like and how it's different than the previous Jelly. And I would love to learn more from Biz and team on, why is the new Jelly going to work and what has changed today in the market maybe that will enable it to succeed this time.
Yeah, one of the things that I think might be changing from what I was reading is the requirement of a Twitter ID in order to use it, or at least in order to kind of gain insight from the information that's already there. Before, you'd have to sign up for an account if you wanted to participate in all. And I think in the new version, at some point, if not soon, you can actually just kind of scan through it and read the information without an account. And then if you want to participate and answer questions and all that kind of stuff, you have to sign up and everything. I love Jelly. I've used it plenty of times in the past to answer questions. My one kind of question or concern with Jelly was, wow, this is also how I use Twitter in a lot of ways. This is all, I use Twitter for a lot of things, but one of the things is I see something and I don't know what it is. I ask everybody on Twitter and they let me know. And for some reason, that kind of splintering of use case between one app to another, it was hard for me personally, and I like the app, to program my mind to think of Jelly when I wanted to do that versus just going to Twitter and doing it. And that could be part of the challenge that they're facing,
Mm-hmm. Or going to Google or many of the search engines, which are very specifically focused on certain types of use cases. So I think you're right. It felt in between almost these different places in your mind of why do I use Jelly? Why don't I use these other services that I'm accustomed to using already?
Yep. Absolutely. Great stuff. We love Product Hunt. We look at it all the time just because it's such a vibrant community talking about things that we're all passionate about. We're all passionate about these new products, be it apps, actual tangible hardware products and everything. You guys do a great job promoting all that stuff. So thanks for kind of telling us a little bit about what's going on there. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. And yeah, I've been listening to Twit, the network, and Tech News Today for a long time. So it's always fun to actually be on the show.
Rad. All right, hang around. We're not going to let go just yet. We have to thank one final sponsor, and then we're going to come back for a little bit more. We're going to reveal the TNT fan of the day and a few other things. But first, let's take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Epson. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. This is what I've always wanted, definitely, but what we've always wanted with our printers. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features a refillable ink tank. Super innovative. It comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages. That's equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded. You're ready to print for up to 2 years. It's powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology. It delivers high speed, vivid colors, laser quality black text. Everything looks great. Plus, it's auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones, which I know firsthand can be a little bit of a chore getting that all to sync up. So it's done very well here. It's the EcoTank printer, delivers an unbeatable combination of convenience, of value, with ultra-low cost replacement ink bottles. And now you have the freedom to print without running out of ink. Best part is Epson starts you off right. For example, like I said, the ET4550, it includes ink, not only the 8,500 color pages that I told you about, 11,000 black pages. 11,000 black pages. I don't even know if I've printed that many pages ever. But there you go. That's up to 2 years worth of ink included right in the box. So you unbox it and you got that. Totally awesome. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, your office, your work group, everyone prints. For the best combination of ease and use, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/EcoTank. We thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision. All right, continuing on the legacy of How I Watch TNT. TNT's fan of the day today is Terrence Blount. Says, how I watch TNT with Megan Morrone while working in the living room getting ready for CES. He's actually there with Samsung.
Awesome.
Checked out his Twitter feed, and he's been hopping around the CES floor for Samsung, and we appreciate him sending that in. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. You can just record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup, how you're watching it, post it to Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. I'll show you how to use Google+ to find some of these, Megan. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it. That is that, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, so much for joining us. Yeah. It's been great to have you. It's always great to have you. Is there anything else that is hot on Product Hunt or any new sections on Product Hunt that you wanted to talk about?
We have some things we're working on. Aren't ready to announce anything yet, but you can find me on all the things. I'm on Peach, RR Hoover.
Of course you are.
I'm going to teach you right now.
Teach me. I guess I don't know if it's a verb, but it should be.
It will be.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome. Yeah, producthunt.com, RR Hoover on Twitter, and yeah, thanks. And RR Hoover on Peach, as you just said. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
We'd love to have you back soon. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Monday's guest is going to be Selena Larson of The Daily Dot. So definitely join us on Monday. We're going to take a nice long weekend and think about all the stuff we've done this week, all the new things we've done this week with Tech News Today. Whew, this is a week.
It was.
You know what? Let's just do it now.
Yeah, let's high five.
All right. We're doing good. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv or leaving us a short voicemail at 260-TNT show. You can also hit us up on Twitter. That's at Tech News Today TV.
And don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast catcher. All the ways to subscribe are there on our show page at twit.tv/TNT. If you want to get in touch with us, hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Megan Morrone. That's also my name on Peach, so I already got some requests. Thank you. I'm going to be an expert teacher.
You better be, to make up for me, because I won't have it because I'm Android. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter, however, so you can still find me there. And that's all we got. Bye, everyone.